It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. We welcome Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, back to the show. Andy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. We gave you a little time, Andy. A little time to digest the draft lottery results. We know you keep an eye on the Jazz, even though you write about the entire NBA, got some ties to this part of the world. And I'm curious, now that you've thought about it, heard about it, maybe talked to people about it, what should the Jazz do, and what do you think they will do?
I think those two are going to be the same answer, and I think they're probably going to stay at number 2. I guess it would depend on what Washington asks for, but based on, and I guess this isn't much to base an opinion on, but like the fake trades that you see from media outlets, seems like it's too big of an ask from Washington to move up. If they really are insisting on like the number 2 and a future first and Ace Bailey, if I was the Jazz, and I would assume the Angels would see this the same way, I would assume they would just stick at number 2. Because in this draft, I think you have a chance at a superstar, whether you're at 1 or 2. So I don't know why you would give up Ace Bailey in this situation, or even some of the scenarios that I've seen that are slightly less than that ask. I would still probably stick at number 2. I'm sure there's a lot of people in and around Utah who have their heart set on Debonsa. But there's not even a guarantee he's going to go number 1. I think there's a real chance that Washington takes Peterson. And I think if you end up with either one of those guys, you're probably fine. And now there's this recent buzz that maybe Utah would like Boozer there too. And there's certainly a numbers argument to take him. So if Utah has wanted to move up for so long, and maybe there was a slight sting in not getting number 1 the night of the lottery, but of all the years to get number 2, this is probably the best one.
With that in mind, basically then there's nothing that the Jazz need to do is what you're saying, because of all the years to get number 2. This is plenty good enough. So what I'm hearing from you is they really don't need to do anything. Whichever kid they get will be fine, and they'll be ready to play ball when October rolls around.
Yeah, I think need is a great word to plug in here. They can be very content to stick at number 2 and probably or maybe potentially get a superstar there. The other thing that I was just thinking of, and there's a track record of this with Danny Ainge, maybe they even trade down a spot.
Yeah.
Like if Memphis is desperate to get one of those 2 guys, Debonsa or Peterson, and Utah really likes Boozer, maybe you get some assets out of this. And you still end up with potentially the best player of the group. I think there's still a chance that happens with Boozer. In my mind, and I'm not a draft expert, in terms of safety of the picks, it might go Debonsa, Boozer, Peterson to me. Upside, it might go Peterson, Debonsa, Boozer. I'm sure you ask 10 different people, you might get 10 different orders on that. So again, it's a good year to be number 2 because at least right now, it kind of looks like you can't really go wrong anyway.
You've been doing this long enough, and you've poured over past drafts. You know there is not a draft out there where the best player went number 1, the second best player went number 2, and the third best player went number 3. It never happens that way. You would always redraft it looking at pick 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, or 16. So if they really throw everything out the window, and if they don't care what anybody says on draft night, and they just think, hey, this is going to be like draft whatever, and a guy who's projected at 6 or 8 or whatever is really the guy, we're going to do it, whether that's trading down or taking him at 2. Who would that be? Is that like Acuff has been projected anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8? Wagler from Illinois is in that same kind of range. And history says that one of those guys is going to be awesome and much better than the guys who are going to be taken in front of him if form holds. Who would it be, you think?
This isn't an answer to your exact question because I'm bumping up in the range a little bit.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, and odds are there is going to be somebody really good in that range. But to me, I'm cheating a little bit. If there was a guy that I think could kind of break consensus is Caleb Wilson. And I say I'm cheating because everybody has him at number 4, seemingly. But I wouldn't be shocked, just based on the video I've seen of this guy, the athleticism is pretty freakish. And that doesn't always translate to the right kind of skill development that you need and the right mentality. But I think he has a chance to be really, really special. I don't know if I would bet on it or feel good enough about it to skip out on those top 3 guys. I still think, like you said, is there a chance that Utah shocks everyone and takes somebody not in that consensus top 3 at number 2? I think there's a chance, but I would be pretty scared to do that in this particular draft. I would probably, unless Memphis offers a haul or the Wizards ask for less than people think they are, I would probably just stick at number 2. And if it's DeBonsa, great. If it's Peterson, great. And like I said, maybe you can even make an argument for Boozer. I'm not giving you guys a lot of concrete answers, but I think that's kind of the beauty of this draft is you can win in a lot of different ways here.
These players all have different levels of skill, right? And they all do something really good, and maybe there's not something that is as good, and you have a question mark. As far as the 3 players, because I think that if everything stays as is, then those will be in whatever order, 1, 2, 3, right? And maybe we'll be surprised, you don't know, but I think that's the way it would go. And so their particular skill sets and the knocks on them, Boozer not being athletic, DeBonsa not being a great shooter. Peterson, I'm wondering, do you look at him and the knock on him is just the durability and maybe he checks the boxes on all the other aspects of the game?
I think durability is one, and I know that they have, after the fact, concocted some stories about his lack of availability, but they don't fully pass the sniff test to me. And so there's still sort of a mentality or approach question for him with me. The creatine thing it just seemed like something that an agent cooked up months after the fact.
Sounds good. Let's go with that.
Yeah. So I don't that part of it scares me a little bit. His measurables and his skill set and his tough shot making ability are all very, very impressive. And I think he has superstar upside. I think all 3 of these guys have superstar upside, and I think Peterson might have the most. Over the history of the league, we have a few examples of these sort of archetypal shooting guards that can become the face of the league, like Jordan and Kobe, and now kind of SGA in that mold. And I think Peterson probably fits that the closest. So I really like him. I think that mentality thing might be the single biggest red flag of the 3, though.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's interesting.
And that's not to say that it's like terrifying to me. If he was available at number 2, I would take him because of that superstar upside. And he may be a guy who just fits NBA basketball better than college. And maybe an NBA training staff realizes, oh, this really was a cramping issue, and we know how to deal with it. It could all be fixable stuff, but you have to get real nitpicky with all 3 of these prospects. So if I say that's my single biggest red flag of the 3, it's still a pretty small flag.
Maybe a pennant, not a flag.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Boozer and Wilson at 6'8" and 6'9", it bugs a lot of fans because they feel like, well, they've already spent $50 million on Jackson and $50 million on Markkanen, and now they're about to spend, I don't know, 25 or whatever the number turns out to be on Kessler, assuming that deal gets done. So they got their front line, so why would you draft these guys? Well, you need at least 5 guys to play through those 3 positions, and the 2 guys who are signed at $50 million are signed for 3 years, and there's a decent chance so they're flipped maybe after 2 years because you can't afford everything going forward, everybody at every price they want. So one is flipped. So I think that is zero impact on this draft. If you think Boozer or Wilson is the best player available, then you take them. I think it will work out in the short run. There could be injuries also. And I think it'll definitely work out in the long run. So that wouldn't impact me at all. What do you think?
I think you are exactly right there. Generally speaking, if you're an NBA team approaching the draft, I think best player available should be priority number 1. I think it's pretty rare that a positional fit would trump best player available, and it certainly doesn't apply to Utah being as far away from contention as they've been the last few years. And you mentioned it in there in the question, there's the opportunity to trade. And so you take the best player available, and if he happens to be a big guy and he's ready to lead a team quicker than you realize, then maybe somebody like Markkanen or Triple J still has plenty of value around the league. You can loosen up a logjam in the front court, I think, pretty easily. And the way that the league is trending right now, this stuff can change on a dime. So, maybe it looks different in 4 or 5 years, but right now an abundance of size and strength and physicality is pretty important. And so if you can get a big guy who's also super athletic like Wilson, and I would even throw in Dabonsa into this because he's pretty large himself. He's probably going to have to play some 3, so there's maybe a little bit of overlap with Markkanen. But if you have an abundance of size, the way the league is trending right now, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, definitely not, for sure. And the Jazz have that. And with Ace Bailey, too, they have it even in abundance in the backcourt. And we'll see how he develops. You speak of Dabonsa, and, I've seen him in person. We've seen him in person. We've watched him every game. We're intimately familiar with him, and I'm sure you have a level of familiarity, too, not living too far away. And obviously games are available. And the knock on him is the pure three-point shooting. His mid-range, I just was not stunned because I saw it so much, but so impressed with his ability to get, at least at the college level, get around the free throw line and rise above. So I don't necessarily have any issue on that, but if he can hit the 3, they can crowd him and blah, 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 and then be harder or play off him and crowd him as he starts to move closer to the basket. Bottom line, what's your level of concern regarding his shooting from distance?
I would say mild at most. He's a guy who has a lot of skill, and I don't think, especially in today's NBA, it's unusual for athletes to figure out how to shoot over the course of a few years. And from what I've seen, he has the kind of demeanor. He looks like a player who wants to improve, which is huge, and I think he'll figure it out, frankly. What I love about Dabonsa is I think he checks a lot of the same boxes that the other guys do without many of the drawbacks. You mentioned the big one. We're not certain that he'll become a knockdown shooter, but even if he develops into like a 35 or 36% guy, I think with the rest of his skill set, that would be good enough. I think he has a lot of the skill, like tough shot making and getting to your spot that Peterson has. I think he has a good feel for the game, like Boozer. And I think it's kind of underrated how big he is. If you've got a ball handler who can play the 2 or the 3, but is also the size of like a power forward and some small ball centers, I think that's a huge deal. So to me, he checks the most boxes. He's number 1 on my personal board, and it feels like the safest of all worlds to me. So is there some concern that he doesn't figure out how to shoot? Yeah. But that one's not really scaring me that much.
The one that scares me a lot is Peterson, because people make a lot of assumptions. But what if the truth is right in front of us, staring us in the face? The people who've known him a long time say, this isn't like him. He's not like that. So if people think it's an attitude problem or it's an arrogance, or there's an agent informing this is what you need to do now so you can get paid later. I mean, it's plausible. You can't rule it out because that scenario has happened as recently as Ace Bailey, and he does not appear to be who he was portrayed to be at all. It's been night and day being around him, right? But what if the truth is Peterson, playing harder against better competition, did cramp up? What if it isn't about the creatine? What if it's really like he didn't feel good because his body was hurting? Period, end of story. There's no layers to this. It is what it appears to be, because I'm watching the Western Conference Finals now, and there's 2 guys on each team who are out. And in the regular season, we all say they're coasting. They're saving themselves for the playoffs. They don't really care about the regular season, and we get disgusted with attitudes that clubs and players take. But now it's the biggest games. Literally, this feels like the NBA Final. Whoever wins the West should beat whoever wins the East. There's nothing to hold back, and it's 4 guys, 2 on each team, who are either out or went down late in the game or went out partway through. What if Peterson's body can't hold up? Maybe they really are doing more running, cutting, and jumping, and bodies are breaking down more often. Nobody's faking it now. This is what they're here for now. This is the best of times. That means if his body really is breaking down, he is a super risky pick.
I think that's a valid concern. I think you're almost getting into like a league-wide issue here, and I haven't been able to get to the bottom of this. For part of the season, I wondered if teams were just over-reporting calf and hamstring strains, because those specific injuries, the reporting of them just went through the roof this season, and I wondered, is this a way to get around the player participation policy? But like you said, there's really no excuse for guys to be sitting out at this point. And Fox is dealing with an ankle, so his is different. But Jalen Williams is a hamstring. Dylan Harper last night was a hamstring. So I don't know if there's anything the league can do to address this, but it is something that I've been thinking about all season. And in that environment, to be looking at a player who could potentially have cramping and muscle issues, I understand why you have some concern there. His skill level, like I said, probably still trumps that concern for me, and I would hope, like, we'll get this guy into our program, we'll figure out what's going on, and he'll be fine. But you're right, there are players whose bodies just aren't as capable of handling the load as others, so I think it's a very valid concern to bring up. Don't
draft Brandon Roy right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wildly talented, but the body broke down.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick an NBA Finals real quick before we go? How's this all going to shake out? Who's going?
I think it's going to be New York and San Antonio. That's kind of what I thought coming into both of those series. I think both of those series are going to be pretty competitive. I think New York will probably get out of theirs earlier than San Antonio does, but I want to say it was like 1999 or something. Those two teams met in the finals, so it's kind of a fun rematch. And Wemby's like this emerging face of the league, and New York obviously has its fan base and its market. And I think that would be a cool, really marketable finals, and that's what I'm going with right now.
We appreciate it as always, Andy. Thanks for joining the show and talking hoops with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always love being on.
Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report. Join us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, everything you missed in the show. Next, stay with us.
Thumbtack presents Uncertainty Strikes. I was surrounded. The aisle and the options were closing in. There were paint rollers, satin and matte finish, angle brushes, and natural bristles. There were too many choices. What if I never got my living room painted? What if I couldn't figure out what type of paint to use? What if I just used Thumbtack? I can hire a top-rated pro that knows everything about interior paint, easily compare prices, and read reviews. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.